Hey there, good morning, people. Welcome to Prog Monster, a site dedicated to progressive rock, hard rock, heavy metal, and other forms of rock music. So today I'm doing a look back video, look back at a classic rock album. The one I've chosen, I thought about this one for a bit. I thought, how do I feel about this album really? I didn't feel that great about it initially. But it really grew on me over time, and it continues to grow on me. We're talking about Jethro Tull's Crest of a Knave. There's a lot of things about this album I didn't really like initially because it wasn't what I was expecting, but it grew on me over time. So anyways, this album was released on September the 11th, 1987 at Jethro Tull's. Jethro Tull always had this kind of quirky, kind of almost Monty Python type sense of humor. And they have, for their studio, they have just around the corner from the kitchen in the room behind the door. That's Jethro Tull. It was, of course, produced by Jethro Tull. The length of this particular one, this is the CD version. The album version's a little different because it doesn't have a couple of tracks. The two tracks it doesn't have on it are Dogs in the Midwinter and I believe it's The Walking Edge. I'll remember as we go along, but the CD version has both of them, so it's about 49 minutes in length. Released on the Chrysalis label, and this art, which is kind of really was one of the reasons I bought the album. I really liked the art. I thought it was really decent. It's like a coat of arms with all kinds of different things on it, and it was produced by Andrew Stewart Jameson. Okay, so then we get into the personnel for this album, which is, I found a little difficult. When I read the album, I thought, okay, something's not right here. So then I went online and checked, and sure enough, it was what they said on the album. So on the album, it only gives credit to 3 people as being members of the band. Ian Anderson, Martin Barry, and David Pegg. But there's other guys who played on this album, and a couple of them, actually the drummer, the main drummer on this, had been with the band for 3 or 4 years at this time, and had been playing with them and touring with them and everything. So I'm not really sure why they didn't credit him as part of the band, but they're quirky band that way sometimes. So anyways, appearing on the album as members of the band are Ian Anderson with a list of stuff: vocals, flute, acoustic, electric guitars, percussion, keyboards, drum program, which means they used a drum synthesizer, which was another thing I didn't really care for on the album, but they did it, especially when they already have a drummer. Kind of weird. Martin Barry is the playing acoustic and electric guitars, and David Pegg as bass and acoustic bass. So and then the other people appearing. Joan Perry played drums and percussion. Jerry Conway played drums and percussion, and Rick Sambers on violin. I assume it's electric violin. I only have violin written, but it might be electric. I'm not sure. Anyways, so my initial take on the album, I bought it. I was looking for a new Jethro Tull. I hadn't seen this one before, and I thought, wow, this is a pretty decent cover. And it was released in the 80s, so I thought, okay, it's probably pretty good. I took it home and I listened to it. I thought, at first, when I first started playing it, I thought, okay, somebody's screwing with me here. They put the wrong disc in the disc Jethro Tull. So I went and I opened it up and I looked at it. Sure enough, it says Jethro Tull, Crest of a Knave on it. I said, it doesn't sound like Jethro Tull at all. It sounds like a Dire Straits album. So I listened to the whole album. I said, yeah, this definitely sounds like a Dire Straits album. But I thought somebody's just messing with me, but I began to realize that was the style that they put together. This album was actually a lot more influence on this album by Martin Barry than was normal. Usually Ian Anderson was a dominant one, but Martin Barry had a lot of influence on this album as well. So the tracks on the album, there's 9 tracks on the CD and 7 on the album. So anyways, Steel Monkey was kind of a hit, a bit of a heavy song. It's grown on me. I like it quite a bit. And it's the thing about this whole album. It started out behind the eight ball a bit. At first, it started out good because it was a Jethro Tull album, nice cover and everything, and then I was kind of disappointed because of the sound. I thought, I don't buy it. I don't want to buy a Dire Straits album. I want to listen to Dire Straits. I'll buy a Dire Straits album, right? And then I just started playing it, and then I started noticing there are some classic Jethro Tull sounds on here. I don't really like the drum synthesizer parts, and they're not hard to pick out. I like the song Steel Monkey. Pretty strong, pretty heavy song. Quite a good song. One of my favorites on the album. Farm on the Freeway. Yeah, it's okay. Jumpstart. That's not bad. She Said She Was a Dancer. That was the first real kind of song that I liked on the album. It's a typical Jethro Tull kind of way about him. You know, I'm not going to get into that, but I like the song. It's pretty good. One of my favorites, of course, on this album. Dogs in the Midwinter was really the first one that I liked, and I played that quite a bit. I really like the flute in this album, on this particular song. It's a kind of a heavier song. It does have a bit of a Dire Straits sound to it, but it's not a bad. It's not a bad sound. So pretty good. Of course, the one that they play a lot, and then they play it in concert and stuff like that, is Budapest, which is also the longest song on this album. And there's some great flute work on this album. Ian Anderson's fantastic flute playing on this. Very different than some of the earlier stuff, but still just notably great. So this was another great song on the album. Mountain Man. It's a fairly heavy track. I like it. It's not a bad track. And then, of course, the other song that was added to the CD version, The Waking Edge, has a nice, quiet piano part at the beginning, and I like that. It adds something to the album. I always was one of these people that kind of liked the kind of folky sound that Jethro Tull had in their music at points and times in various songs and various albums. I know some people don't really like the folky aspect of it. They like the heavier stuff or the progressive stuff. I like the heavy stuff. I like the progressive stuff, but I also like the folky addedness to it. It makes them different from a lot of progressive bands, and that's part of the thing I like about them. Raising Steam, another kind of really Dire Straits sounding song. It's not one of my favorites. But it's not bad either. Like, there's no really bad tracks on the album. After a while, I began to think, this is not a bad listening to it. It's more one of those albums that you can listen to while you're doing things, and it kind of is an upbeat kind of an album that way. So, but it's not something I would sit down and directly listen to. I wouldn't even play it much on my headphones. I have certain albums and stuff I really like to listen to. Certain groups I really like to listen to on headphones. Other groups not as much. And this is not one of those albums for that. There's other Jethro Tull albums I like to listen to, but this isn't one like that. Anyways, overall, a pretty solid album. It's a 2, in my opinion. A level 2, I mean. It's not quite a level 1. It's not going to be a Grandmaster anytime soon. But, I've had the album now for... I think I've probably had it about 17 or 18 years, and I've listened to it. I listened to it quite a bit once I got into it. Haven't listened to it as much. I do throw it on once in a while. I listened to it yesterday, of course. Before I review an album, I like to listen to it. So there you have it. Jethro Tull's Crest of a Knave, 1988 release. Pretty solid album. There's a lot better Jethro Tull albums, but still a good album. I would recommend it if anybody wanted to buy it. You might have a different, maybe a little bit at the beginning, but it'll grow on you. Give it a chance. Anyways, I'll be doing another live experience later in the week. It's an album that I think many people will know right away, and for a lot of people, they'll like it quite a bit, I hope. Anyways, we'll be doing that later in the week, and if you like this, like me in the column below, give a comment about the album if you have any experience with it. That'd be great. Maybe there might be something I'm not noticing. And if you want me to do more of this kind of content, of course, just subscribe and we'll do that. So you have a great day. From Prog Monster, out.